Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. So, as you have probably guessed from the title of this video, I am looking into trying out mechanized guard. Now, I have dabbled with mechanized guard in the past, but never too seriously. Always more of a concept, fluffy army than an actual competitive army. And my original roots in the Imperial Guard lie with my with being a tread head. I used to just want as many leaving Russes as I could get my hands on. So I am familiar with the concept of mechanized. It's not completely alien to me, but I haven't used it for a long time. I have been, as you guys know, an infantry guard player for a while now, and that was due to the necessities of 7th edition. 6 going in 7th. But with 8th edition dropping, it's starting to look like mechanized Imperial Guard might be the way forward. And as much as I love pure infantry, and as much as I will always try and focus pure infantry tactics as in this channel, it's actually, there's no good if I'm just banging on about pure infantry tactics if they're not the optimum ones for this edition. If it turns out that mechanized is the way to go, then it is my duty to make sure that you guys know what the best army to use is. And if that's mechanized guard, then we've got to cover those tactics. So I'm going to spend a month or so, maybe a few weeks, might be a bit longer, but I'm going to really play test some mechanized guard. I mean, really thrash it out. And I want to find, like I found with my sort of infantry lists at the beginning of 8th edition, where I created the rule of 3 list, I want to try and find that perfect guard mech list. So for those of you who don't know, my rule of 3 list for the beginning of 7th edition, before the nerf dropped, was to take a tank commander plus a blob of conscripts plus an infantry squad plus a veteran squad, and then like a commissar and a commander, and then just times that by 3. So I'd have 3 tank commanders, 3 commissars, 3 company commanders, 3 infantry squads, 3 veteran squads, and 3 conscript blobs. And that was obviously a lot of infantry. You know, we're talking 150 infantry with a sprinkling of armour on top, the Legion Russes, just to provide a bit of long range boom. And I was doing that before Legion Russes even got the buff, and I found that to be a really powerful army, really balanced between a mix of mobility, well, relatively speaking, mobility, and long range firepower. But that list is just, it's going to take a lot of work to get that list running again after the FAQ. I mean, the majority of my lists hinged on the fact, the big part of that list hinged on the commissars, keeping everyone in line, holding the line and falling back where necessary. Now, if I want to try and get the same result, I've got to invest in Inquisitors, I've got to invest in Lord Commissars at the minimum. I can't really be Mordians anymore. I've got to be Valhallan, so that I can reduce use the Petrov Mark 45 relic. Got to use command squads. I've got to do all these different bits and bobs, and I'm there thinking to myself, it's not really going to work anymore, is it? I'm going to have to spend a lot of points on support elements, or force myself to go down a regiment trait that I don't necessarily want to, in order to maintain the effectiveness of my list. And I'm going to have to sacrifice firepower in order to do it. You know, if I want, I have to drop, my basilisks. I've got some basilisks in there as well. Or I'll have to drop a tank commander or something. I have to drop firepower. And I'm thinking, hang on, I'm putting all these points into these support elements to just maintain the current list that I've got. But all those support elements don't really add anything to my firepower, my ability to hurt my enemy. I'm just paying a load of points to protect myself, but that doesn't really work in 40k. 40k, it's all about damage output. It's much less about individual unit durability, especially in the guard. So with that in mind, I'm thinking of trying Mech out and seeing if I can find a really, really good Mech list. And that's why I've got these couple of Steel Legion troopers here. Because Steel Legion are the quintessential mechanized unit for the Imperial Guard. If you think mechanized, you think Steel Legion. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that I am going to use the Steel Legion for my army. They may not be the best for the job. So that's something to bear in mind. But I think the list that I've got in my head, the list I've been playing around with, is something like I'm going to take, I'm trying to think how many chimeras I have. I'm going to take, let's say, 8 chimeras. I'm going to take 8 chimeras, and in each one of them I'm going to put an infantry squad with a flamethrower. Probably have to model that, but I'm going to put an infantry squad with a flamethrower in there. And the Chimera is going to be armed with something like, twin heavy, it's going to be for long range Dakar. I mean, at the moment it's whatever I've got my hands on, which is, I've got a mixture of chimeras, but it's going to be long range Dakar. I'm going to be looking into modelling myself some of the Forge World chimeras, the ones that come with the twin heavy bolter, because they're 14 points for twin heavy bolter, which is good. And that's better than paying 10 points for a multi-laser, which is rubbish. So I was thinking of taking double heavy bolter on the turret, and then heavy bolter on the Chimera hull, and then a heavy stubber as well, which means I've got 12 shots coming from each tank. Now that's a lot of Dakar. That's a lot of long range anti-infantry Dakar, which is good. Okay, and if we work that out, I mean, I could be wrong here, so I may be a few points off here, but I believe the Chimeras in Forge World are still only 70 points rather than 75, and then it's 14 points for your twin heavy bolter, and then it's 8 points for a regular heavy bolter, and then 4 points for the heavy stubber, and then I times that by 8, and then I put an infantry squad with just a flamer in there, or plasma gun, it doesn't really matter. And that comes to 1,144 points, which is good. And then what I want to do is I want to take some tanks, because that's a lot of anti-tank, that's a lot of anti-infantry that I've got. But what I need is some anti-tank. That's what I really need. So we're looking at either plasma tank commanders or battle tank commanders. So I know the battle tank's good, and that's got long range firepower. It's got 72 inches, which is important. So we'll go for the classic Lemurus loadout: heavy bolter, las cannon, battle cannon. I mean, do I really need the heavy bolters if I've got so many of the heavy bolters? Well, you can't go wrong with more heavy bolters. So we'll take 3 tank commanders. I think that's a reasonable amount, because we can put them in a high command attachment. And then those tank commanders are going to have turrets, las cannon, heavy bolters, heavy bolters, heavy bolters. Now, we need a couple of, we need some officers. That's important. We need some officers so that we can order our infantry about. And I'm thinking we're going to need 4. And you may be saying, why do you need 4 officers? And I'm saying, well, I need 4 officers because I want to be able to give an order to each one of my infantry squads. Now, the list that I've described comes to 1,939 points. We'll call it 1,950, so because in case I'm wrong on the other chimeras. So that's pretty good. So what do we get for that points? Well, we get 8 chimeras, each one putting out 12 shots. and then we get 8 infantry squads. That's 80 infantry, which is decent. And they're all going to be first rank fire, second rank firing the majority of the time. And they can either have a plasma gun or a flamer, because they cost the same on infantry squads. And then I've got 3 battle tanks. Now I have plenty of points left over here. I have plenty of points over. I could swap this heavy bolter out in the battle tank for some more anti-tank and take some plasma cannons instead. I've got the points to do that. And so what we actually end up with here, and this is 3 detachments. So we've got a battalion with 2 commanders, 4 infantry squads, and then we've got another one, 2 commanders and 4 infantry squads, and we've got a high command detachment, 3 tank commanders. Now the thinking behind this army is as follows. If we're playing a long range Dakar fight, then the infantry squads can stay in the Chimeras and they can stay safe. And that's 11 vehicles, and my 11 vehicles can just pour firepower onto the enemy. However, if we start facing an enemy which can deep strike or potentially get turn 1 charges off of me, I don't want them tying up all my vehicles. No way, Jose. In that situation, I put my infantry out, which are sacrificial, outside of the tanks and use them to create a protective screen around my army. And then I essentially make a parking lot. Parking lot is a pretty familiar list to most Guard players. Take a parking lot, and that's a lot of firepower going into the enemy. I mean, just from the Chimeras alone, we're talking 72 heavy bolter shots. Not bad. Don't forget, you've then got that doesn't seem right. 9. Yeah. Then you've got 24 heavy stubber shots as well. Heavy stubbers are, they're okay. If you want to cut points down, take storm bolters instead. Okay. Because storm bolters will still put out a decent amount of firepower. And then you've got the firepower from the tanks. Remember, the tanks were staying still. So you've essentially got 6 battle cannons firing a turn. Now let me tell you, I used 3 Lehman Russes for an entire tournament. 3 Lehman Russes is enough. Trust me. My Punisher Lehman Russ rarely got to do very much, but because he always was a high priority target. But the battle cannon Lehman Russes were deadly. Very, very deadly. And you can imagine if they're spitting out 2d6 battle cannon shots a turn each, and they're spitting out las cannons as well, and then I've probably got the points. I've got 60 points. I could give each one of them. I probably get enough. Trying to think, I've probably got enough points to give them all plasma cannon ones as well. 7 times 6, I believe it is. Yeah, 42 points. I've got enough points to give all my Lehman Rusted plasma cannons instead of heavy bolters. I say 7 because it's 8 points for a heavy bolter, 15 points for a plasma cannon. So, well, I think it's 15 points for plasma cannon. It might be more actually. I better check that quickly. Plasma cannon, 15 points. So, general principle is that, like I said, we make a parking lot. If the enemy is going to try and outshoot us, we sit back and we fire and fire and fire. If the enemy wants to get nice and close, we protect our tanks with infantry. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And because they're all regular infantry, and because they've all got flamers, there's a lot of Overwatch the enemy is going to take. And because they're all regular infantry, they can fall back and get back in the fight with no problems whatsoever. Now, there are some variations to this list that we could add. Maybe you think 8 Chimeras is a bit excessive. And maybe you want some other way of trying to mitigate deep strike. I agree, that's pretty reasonable. I would say in this list, it'd be perfectly reasonable to drop down to 6 Chimera squads, and then take, which would save you 70 plus 14 plus 8 plus 4 plus 47 times 2, which save you 286 points. So with that, you could get yourself some sentinels, scout sentinels, and make a nice little anti-deep strike bubble around you. Take a couple of hellhounds for that, but you get the gist. You get the gist, which is we want 10 plus tanks, 10 plus vehicles. Go sit in a parking lot, the enemy, and then and the reason I'm doing this is because the list has flexibility. So if the enemy wants to try and come to you and get in close combat, you can deal with that. And if the enemy wants to sit back and shoot, you can deal with that. And that was what was so strong about the old infantry list I was using at the beginning of 8th. Because in combat, the conscripts provided that screen long enough so everyone else could do a lot of firepower. And in long range shooting, the conscripts were able to move up and provide extra firepower if needed and get in the enemy's face. Likewise. Now there's one last thing we need to discuss, which we haven't discussed yet. And I'm going to play test each one of these. Which doctrine to take? Now there are 3 which come to mind. Okay, we're going to take a look at it now. Obviously you've got Armageddon. Obviously. And I like the Armageddon one because that does lend, it's traditional, and it does lend itself to being able to sit back and shoot, because you guys have all got rapid fire range 18. Now that's good for plasma and it's good for las guns. 18-inch first rank fire, second rank fire is tasty. So we like that. Also the vehicles are kind of more durable. AP -1 is like having AP -0 when getting shot at. So that's good. That makes your vehicles more durable. So that's an okay one. I think a really good one for sitting back and shooting is the Cadian one. Because the Cadian one, if you read it out here, if I read it out here, reroll hit rolls of 1 in the shooting phase for units with this doctrine if they did not move in the previous movement phase. So if all my Chimeras stay still, they've all got like those 12 shots each, and they're rerolling 1s to hit. That's pretty good. That's really, really good. That, and I know Chimeras struggle with their only pretty basic ballistic skill, but if you look at the stratagem for Cadians, it's called Overlapping Fields of Fire. Use a stratagem after, it's 2 command points. Use a stratagem after Cadian unit from your army has inflicted an unsafe wound on an enemy unit in the shooting phase. You can add 1 to hit rolls for any other Cadian units from your army that target the same unit in this phase. So if you pour all your firepower into something that's big and nasty, you could definitely, that's going to help you. Rerolling 1s to hit, also +1 to hit. That's good. So the Cadian one and the Armageddon one the Cadian one definitely lends to being a static parking lot fire base. But if your opponent is starting to use line of sight blocking terrain against you, it's going to start causing your doctrine to become less and less effective. Armageddon, industrial efficiency, again, it does lend itself to being a long-range Dakar faction. But if you do have to move, then it's okay because your doctrine's still in play. You've still got an 18-inch rapid fire, and your vehicle's still got reducing the reduction of AP. AP -1 equals AP -0. So that's good. However, if you want to go for a mechanized list where you want to be zipping all over the place, then the one you want to go for is Talon. So we're not too bothered about Talon infantry units with doctrine can advance and still shoot any weapon type except heavy weapons. When they do so, they do not suffer the usual penalties to hit rolls for assault weapons. So that's good. I mean, it means your infantry can just run around and advance, and that can be useful for getting onto objectives. But the real one is the vehicles with doctrine do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls for moving and firing heavy weapons. If you've got triple heavy bolter and a heavy stubber, they're all heavy weapons. So that's really devastating. That's all I can say. It's great to be able to just move around and have no worries whatsoever. Now the last one that I think is particularly relevant is the Vostroyan ones, because all your units in your army would have +6 range to your heavy or rapid fire weapons. That one is good. That one is good. It means 42-inch range heavy bolters, makes a big difference. I think that one's very powerful. I just don't know if you'd need it. I just don't know if you need it. I think you're better off with either Cadian or Armageddon. That would be my recommendation. If you wanted to make it really competitive, the list, assuming we've gone for the 2 battalions and the tank commanders in a high command detachment, how you would do it is you would take. Okay, let's assume you want to go gun line. Okay, you would take Cadian units, Cadian battalions, and then you'd make Catachan all your tank commanders Catachan in their little detachment, because Catachans, each time a vehicle with this doctrine fires a ranged weapon that makes a random number of attacks, aka battle cannon, aka, or should I say, i.e. battle cannon, i.e. plasma cannon, i.e. executioner plasma cannon, you get to roll d6. If you don't like the result, you get to re-roll it. And imagine if you've got a executioner tank plus, which is firing twice, and then you've got your plasma cannons on the side, which are firing twice as well. Well, not firing twice, but getting to pick D3 twice, pick the highest. You know what I'm saying? 2D3 pick the highest is basically what it is. It's not quite as good, but that's basically what it is. So, yeah. Very, very powerful. I'm not a big fan of mixing and matching regiments. I like to be pure. And I think what I'm going to try first is I'm going to try Armageddon Industrial Efficiency. Go for the classic and work my way around it. I'm going to have to probably buy a load of heavy bolter turrets and mix and match and mess around, but we'll see. Now, you may have noticed I'm not really paying any attention to the Taurox. A lot of you may be saying, why are you not going to consider the Taurox? Okay, here's why. The Taurox is very cheap. 70 points. I mean, can you really it's 26 points cheaper. I think I'm gonna retract what I just said. I think the Taurox does have a good place. It's just, to me, it's not the first thing that springs to mind. It's definitely good for sitting back and shooting, maybe as Cadians. Getting the reroll ones to hit on your Taurox, which is probably really good. The thing that's put me off it is its reduced carrying capacity. You can only carry 10 men exactly, so where do your company commanders go? You ideally want them protected inside your tanks. Might not be possible. And 2, the Chimera just puts out a lot more firepower. A lot more. I mean, the Taurox puts out 4 shots. That's it. Yes, they're strength 7, but they're only AP -1. I mean, yeah, they're 2 damage, but trust me, I've yet to see an autocannon perform well in 8th edition. Heavy bolters, we all know, are king. So getting something that can spam heavy bolters is awesome. So Taurox has only put out 4 shots. They can't carry as many men. They're not quite as durable. They can get picked off quite easily. And the Chimera has the las-gun arrays, so don't forget your las-gun arrays can provide a lot of firepower. Shouldn't be underestimated, the las-gun arrays. I think they got FAQ'd recently to be even better, but I'm just going to check. Las-gun array rapid fire 3, and you have 2 las-gun arrays, so you get 12 shots. Rapid fire 12 shots. That's pretty good. That's very, very good. So potentially you could have 24 shots coming from one Chimera. That's decent. That's a decent price. That is decent, 24 shots coming from a Chimera. You cannot complain about that. So, there you go. I think the Taurox is worthwhile, though. I don't think the Taurox should be poo-pooed. Just, to me, I feel like the Chimera is better for just sitting there and shooting things. But the Taurox does have slightly longer range firepower with its autocannons. But I feel like you want to spam the heavy bolters. So, that's it. That's my idea. I'm going to have to get on it. I'm probably going to buy a fuckload of third-party Chimeras and figure out how I'm going to convert them all. Or I'm going to have to do a lot of converting on my current Chimeras. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. We'll see how it goes. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I know it's been a bit rambly and that. I'm a little bit tired from work, so, you know, I hope you can understand that. But, to finish off what I was saying, 8th edition is a different edition. It sounds obvious, but hear me out. Pure infantry may not be the way anymore. With the nerf, it definitely was at the beginning of 8th edition. With nerf after nerf after nerf. Really feels like Games Workshop is pushing us to go mechanized again. Which is annoying, obviously. One thing that I should mention, I do have some inside information. So for those of you which have made it to the end of the video, here's your little treat. You know how I got my inside information on the conscript nerf a day early? I've had some inside information on conscripts. Apparently it's going to get worse. We have not yet seen the final nerf. I can't give specifics because I don't know them. But one thing I have been told is to not be surprised if conscripts go up to 4 points a model. What my guy said to me was, take what I've just said, that conscript's going to be 4 points a model, in a vacuum, take it, look at it, and then see how that is going to affect the wider codex. So there you go. So, I don't think it's over yet for the guard nerfs. Could be wrong, could be rumours, could be bullshit. I don't want to stir the shit cauldron, the shit pot. I don't want to be a shit stirrer, but that is what I've got coming down from the grapevine. So brace yourselves. It looks like conscripts are in for at least one more nerf. Okay, so hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please leave lots and lots of comments. Those of you who are mech players, please leave your advice and your comments and your learnings and your findings down in the comment section. Please, please, please. I need all the advice I can get. I'm not used to running mech. I'm going to take a few bloody noses, I reckon, before I figure it out. But I'm thinking mechanized could be the way forward, guys. We'll have to see. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.